Welcome to the Appetite for Discussion show with your host, Brendan Crouch.
Hey, thanks, Jules. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in again and listening. I'd like to also say thank you to some show supporters, States Vegas Clothing Company, again, for giving me my apparel this year. You can see I'm showing you the shirt. And also to Hunk of Junk Calling. If you have any attic or basement clean outs you need or just stuff hauled off, you can get a hold of them at 704-657-6778. And again, thank you always to States Vegas Radio. And without further ado, my guest tonight is Stewart Kincaid.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Glad to be here.
Dude, you have a wonderful radio voice.
Oh, thank you. You know, maybe I've got a second career lined up after I retire from teaching.
I think you should.
Yeah, well, you know.
I have a face for radio and a voice for nothing. So I've been told.
Oh, the face for radio thing. I don't think.
I think so. I had a lot of people reaching out to me tonight. There's a lot of people excited about this show because you, sir, along with being a very intelligent man and being a very talented musician, you and your wonderful wife.
Oh, thank you.
And but you, sir, are the only person that I know to hike the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah.
End to end, right?
Right.
Start to finish, however you want to say that.
Start to finish, end to end. Many of us refer to ourselves as end-to-enders, or as I call it, a through hiker. I have hiked the whole way through the Appalachian Trail. So that is me. Yes. So and it's interesting you say that, because in Statesville, I'm like, well, in our town, I think there is somebody else out there who's through hiked the trail.
There probably is, but I don't
know
who they are, and it's never came up at any of the local watering holes in conversation.
Right? Yeah.
So, for those like myself who know very little about what it takes to hike the Appalachian Trail, how do you prepare for it? What even made you decide to want to do it?
Right.
There's a lot, right?
It's a big deal, you know. I mean, it's a big deal in the sense that it's similar to choosing a career, if you will. It's not something that you just decide, hey, I'm going to go hike the entire Appalachian Trail. It definitely takes a long series of getting to that point of thinking, well, this is the right journey for me.
That's a commitment.
It is.
I mean, I have to get committed to go, take the trash up to the curb.
Right.
Like, I have to pump myself up
especially in January.
Right.
Well, February now, but yeah. So anyway, a 2,000 miler is also another term for it. 2,000 miler, because referring to the distance of the trail, it's total 2,175 miles from one end to the other. But yeah, so the Appalachian Trail, let's we'll dig into it.
Yeah, sure. So when you were, God, what made you think, or how old were you when you realized, like, I think I want to get into hiking, or maybe you were always into hiking, were exposed to it at a young age?
Yeah, it's the neat thing about it is that fortunate enough I've got good parents, got a great dad who's still alive and well and lives in town, but he was always a man who was interested in backpacking and in going to the mountains. Mm-hmm. Growing up, he was always the kind of man who said, we're not going to the beach. Let's go to the mountains. And as a kid, you're like, whatever. You just kind of roll with the punches. And so just about every other weekend when I was with my dad, it was going to some place in the mountains, some friend's cabin, or some place off the beaten path, playing in a creek or what have you. So I grew up with a dad who was just passionate about going to the mountains. And he's got several friends that he grew up with, old guys in and around Statesville that are now in their 70s, that influenced him. And I'll never forget, it was Christmas of 1995, shopping for a gift for my dad. Sure, it was probably my older brother, who thought, let's get him this map of the Appalachian Trail. And we got it and framed it for him and gifted it to him. And I thought, Appalachian Trail, what is that? So this is 95, so I was like 12 years old, being born in 83. And so my exposure to the mountains was always fairly heavy, moderate to heavy. And of course, growing up, thinking, well, later on, where am I going to go to college? Well, the mountains, I loved them. So I was like, well, I want to go to Appalachian State University. That was the only place my heart and my head directed me. So going there again, you just situate yourself straight there in the mountains, and you cannot avoid the mountain culture while you're there, and nor did I want to.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, one thing that led to another, and the Appalachian Trail just presented itself to be the kind of thing that, as a college student, you remember too. You're like, well, gosh, I know college isn't going to last forever. What am I going to do when it's over with?
Right.
So I didn't want to get a full-time job right off the bat. So I thought, well, let's do something cool. And cool as in something you'll remember, something that you can value. And I don't even think I knew it at the time, but I thought, well, I'm going to hike the Appalachian Trail. And sure enough, I did.
So when you decided to embark on that journey,
Mm-hmm.
like, did you have to prepare to walk 2,175 miles? Because I feel like you just don't wake up and go, you stretch a little bit, you pop your back, you're like,
Right.
all right, we'll start today.
Right, yeah.
You just went off at, drank 20 beers the night before, and you're like, nah, it's not a problem. I'll knock this out real quick.
Well, the neat thing is, I'm actually writing a book in the process of it. Of course, it's a slow process. I started in 2016 after I heard an NPR news story that was talking about how approachable writing a book can be. Just write 1 page a day, you can write a book in 1 year. Wow, that sounds easy, right?
Sounds easy.
So,
right.
Of course, that was 3 years ago now. But it's
What
in
page
terms
are
of
you
the
on?
book, I'm on page 145.
Hey!
Which is wickedly cool. Of course, I don't write 1 page a day,
Right.
but that's the way that life is. Because being a dad and a husband and a full-time job doesn't give me the space and time to sit and write. But I do get time to do it when it's necessary and when it's appropriate. But anyway, getting to the point, all of these things come to mind because I'm writing about them currently and reacquainting my brain with what led me to these decisions and what put me in these places. But in the book where I really decide on where I talk about preparation, it's interesting because I graduated from college, came home,
Yeah.
and I had this planned out. I'd say about 6 months before hiking the trail. So I come home, get a part-time job after graduation, waiting tables and substitute teaching, living at home in my dad's bedroom, or in my bedroom where I grew up in his house, saving every penny I can. And in terms of training and getting ready, I was pretty lazy. And I write about this again in the book. I was actually working at a restaurant across
Probably
the street.
something you don't want to be lazy at.
It's not, but the confidence of youth can be a powerful thing. So being 23 years old, I thought, well, 22 at the time, I believe, almost 23. I drank beer in the afternoon, sat on the porch, and read a lot of books. But in terms of physical aerobic exercise, there was pretty much nil. So I remember I gained probably 15 pounds after college. And my father, of course, says, "Well, son, what are you going to do to prepare for the Appalachian Trail?" I said, "Dad, you're looking at it." And of course, he thought, yeah, son, it's so irresponsible of you. But as it turned out, I was okay. But those first few weeks were tough.
You were just storing up for the winter.
I was,
right?
I was
you know what you're
storing up
doing. You had a game
because
plan.
I knew it.
You can't go out there like a lean, mean fighting machine.
No, you got to go out there. You should definitely go out there prepared. That's for sure. But I knew that I was going to lose some serious weight, and frankly, I wasn't concerned with it. Which it did indeed happen. I lost a good 30 or 40 pounds. So the 15 I gained while waiting tables and drinking beer was lost in no time.
Right, that was
on the
quickly
trail.
gone.
And the Appalachian Trail itself is this force of nature that has to be reckoned with in a sense that you can't beat it. You got to play by its rules. If you get up and do your job every day, which it does turn into being a job, the weight is going to fall off of you. The fitness is going to just completely encapsulate you, and you're going to be a lean, mean hiking machine.
How long does it typically take to hike from end to end?
Mm-hmm.
I guess it depends on the time of year and the season, right?
It does, and timing is incredibly crucial.
Yeah.
You don't time it right, you're not going to be prepared, again, as part of the preparation. So I started in April, And you've got to hike with the seasons. So I started the 1st of April, first week, actually it was April the 7th of 2007 in Georgia.
I was going to say, so for those who don't know, the Appalachian Trail actually starts where?
It starts in Georgia on a mountain called Springer Mountain, which is, to put it into context, it's about an hour's drive north of Atlanta.
Okay.
Right at the tip of the Blue Ridge Mountains. And then it finishes in Katahdin, Maine, or atop Mount Katahdin, Maine, which is BF Egypt, Maine, which is just about everywhere in Maine. But I mean, if you look at it on a map, it's geographically smack in the center of Maine. Okay. And it's beautiful, but it is incredibly remote. And it takes the average hiker 6 months. So you've got to lay yourself up properly. So I started in April, and I finished on top of Mount Katahdin. I was lucky to do so on October the 2nd of that year.
Whoa! Shit.
Now, if
so
I
started
finished
April when?
April the 7th and finished October the 2nd.
For those of you who aren't good with the quick math, that's what, 6 months?
That's about 6 months.
Wow!
That's 5 months and a couple of weeks.
And typically, is that like a long time for that hike? Is that fairly quick?
That's about average, because if you do the math,
yeah,
that's averaging close to 13 miles a day. Now, people will think, oh, wow, 13 miles a day, that's a lot of hiking. It's not really.
Feels like a lot.
Feels like a lot.
Sitting over here, I'm just letting you know. From the cheap seats, feels like a lot.
From where I sit now as a 35-year-old who needs to be hitting the treadmill a little bit more, to say the least, I couldn't go out right now and hike 13 miles a day. It would definitely hurt. But some hikers are out there crushing it faster, hiking 20, 25s a day, which that starts to hurt.
What type of footwear do you need for this? Because you've got to mow through boots, right? Oh,
you do. You mow through some shoes. And oh gosh, there's so many different schools of thought out there, but generally speaking, the best way to approach it is that think of the shoes that you're most comfortable wearing.
Okay.
And I noticed you got some New Balance tennis shoes.
Yep.
Man, that if you wanted to go hike the Appalachian Trail, a new pair of those would be the best choice.
Seriously?
Yeah.
So not your
waffle stomper boots.
No.
Mm-mm.
Well, for people who were listening at home, probably just stopped what they were doing. They spit their beer out and was like, wait a minute, what?
I need some boots, right?
Right, that's what I was thinking. I need some hiking boots.
Because think about it this way.
Maybe like the little red laces that are kind of light brown.
Right, yeah, the classic, and I've got a pair of those. Love them. They're comfortable, but if we had a zombie apocalypse or something and I needed to head for the hills with my family, I wouldn't be packing my boots. I'd wear my tennis shoes.
And why is that? Just for comfort?
Comfort, because think of it this way too. When you're hiking 13 plus miles a day,
yeah.
Well, your hiking boots weigh about 2 to 3 pounds per shoe. Well, no, about 3 pounds total.
Total, okay.
Right. Your tennis shoes weigh about 10 ounces per shoe.
Right.
Maybe less. So when you're lifting your feet up thousands of times a day, that really adds up. It's exponential math. That's part of it. Number 2, when it rains, guess what? The most expensive pair of Gore-Tex boots you can buy, they're going to get soaked at some point.
Oh, that's a good point.
So what feels better, a soaking wet pair of lightweight shoes or a soaking wet pair of Gore-Tex leather 3-pound waffle stomping boots?
I'm definitely going to go with neither.
Exactly.
Right. But no, for sure, you would want to go with the tennis shoes.
Right, because your feet are going to be wet. Your feet are going to be blistered.
So far, this is sounding pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking
wear
about
your
doing
tennis
it.
shoes. But then that comes to the other point that there's trade-offs. Mm-hmm. If you had one good pair of waffle stomping boots, you'll have that one pair the whole way. If you buy the right brand, they'll last you the whole way. But your tennis shoes, I went through 3 pairs of tennis shoes.
Okay.
And just wore them slap out. But that's the route that I chose.
So you did it in tennis shoes?
I did it in tennis shoes. Well, they're called Montrail Hard Rocks, which they don't even make them anymore. That company was bought out by Columbia. Gotcha. Y'all know how it is. When you get a good pair of shoes, you're like, oh, this is a great pair of shoes. And then some cheaper Chinese company buys them out, and they don't fit right anymore.
Something happens.
Something happens.
You can't mess with perfect.
Somebody makes a decision that was not smart for practicality, but very smart for the purse.
Correct.
And,
yes.
So is the world.
But also, I'd imagine socks are important.
Socks are important.
So, like, obviously, from here, we would want to go to the Thorlo store.
Right. You need a good pair of Thorlo socks.
On our Thorlos.
Yep. 2 pairs. That's all I carried. 1 on your feet, 1 back up.
Really?
That's it.
So did you wash your socks for 6 months in the creek?
Yeah, but let's think about it.
Let me think about it.
In the creek, You did. But generally speaking, you've got to hit up a town about every 5 to 7 days.
Okay, because I was going to get
about
to that.
this. You got to resupply your food.
Yeah.
Being in the woods for 5 to 7 days is great, but you are really digging. You're looking forward to that town because they have what's called all-you-can-eat buffets, as well as showers, as well as maybe a TV in a hotel room you could share with your buddies, and then shower and laundry comes in there too.
So
I wash my socks about once a week.
Good. I was
formally,
a little
you know,
formally washed.
Exactly.
So when someone's hiking the Appalachian Trail, are there spots along the way that this town can do this? There's maybe places that you can stay. There's people that host, and the reason I asked that is because I had a guy on a few months ago who hiked. It's called the Camino, or the pilgrimage.
Yeah,
and they did it, I think, in Portugal or somewhere.
I've heard of that one.
It's really
and they
cool.
made a movie several years back with Martin Sheen.
Martin Sheen. It's on Netflix.
I've seen it. It's beautiful.
It is a great movie.
Gosh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes. Oh, what is the name of that movie?
It's called The Way.
The Way. That's it.
Yeah,
and if anybody's listening at home, you should really check that movie out.
Yep.
It's a really good movie.
It is.
And it makes you think, and you see this dad and son trying to go on this, and then like the whole journey of it. I'm not gonna, no spoilers.
Oh, right, yeah.
But you see them going along the way of the pilgrimage,
right.
And they got their little what they call passports, and you stay in the village, you get the stamp, and at the end you get, is it St. Peter's? I think St. Peter's Church.
I'll have to look it up.
Maybe. Anyway, but anyway,
like the Way of St. James or something
Way
like
of
that.
Saint. I think it is St. James.
It might be St. James.
I should have remembered.
It's
I did
been
an entire
about
interview
5 or
it.
6 years since I've watched the movie, but my aunt, well, I call her my aunt, but my cousin in town, Heide Patterson, told me about that movie, and I checked it out. Which is super cool. But that really leads to 2 points. So the answer to that is yes. There are hiker hostels along the way. They're not nearly as fancy as the way Hollywood shows you.
Right.
Number one. And number two, they're not as fancy and lavish as what Europe would provide for the backpacker.
Really?
They're pretty sparse. So there's probably at least one in each state you travel through, which there's 14 states you traverse on the AT. Appalachian Trail AT, as you can call it as well. And the most recent one that I can think of that I've written about in my book is a place called Kincora Hostel in Tennessee, just below the Virginia border. And literally, you get there, and it's a man's home in a cabin in the woods that's on a U.S. Forest Service road. And there's a bunkhouse that's attached to his home that he has had local contractors probably help him build, who probably not up to code. But you make a $5 donation, you get a bunk, you get a ride into town, you get a shower, you get laundry, and kind of get a little bit of community.
Yeah.
And a more conventional roof over your head after sleeping in a tent in the woods for nights and nights on end. But that's more along the lines of what it is. But there are those. In addition to, like I said, you cross a road and have access to a town about every week or so where you could just get a good old-fashioned motel room and clean yourself up. And then that leads me to the second point, too. Speaking of that movie, excuse me, that movie is really based on a lot of spiritual.
Correct. Right.
Which gets me to that point, too. The AT, a hike of it is different for every hiker.
Sure.
And for me, I wasn't really expecting this when I set out and planned for it, but it was very much a spiritual and religious pilgrimage.
Yep.
In addition to everything else that it was.
Right.
And I have to tell you a quick story that I remember. And I was in Virginia one morning, waking up, and mornings, of course, are beautiful on the trail. It's quiet, it's calm. You just imagine yourself in the middle of the woods, trees all around. Fog clearing. It literally is romanticized and beautiful that way. And something just happened to me that morning that I can't completely put into words, but I felt this this closeness to God. Mm-hmm. Just being in the sanctuary of nature that few people can understand unless you're there.
Right.
And of course, this is in Virginia, and I'd already hiked 500-600 miles. Just the most beautiful, picture-perfect morning, and this deer up on this ridge is running back and forth. I can see him. It's a big buck. he's blowing at me. I'm like, oh, world.
Right.
It
Now what?
was kind of freaky at first, but then he stopped and kind of looked at me and just ran off. And just walking through the woods, I just for a few minutes I imagined, wait a minute, I think this is what heaven is supposed to be like. Just perfect, serene, peaceful, Zen-like for me. Not a care in the world, not a pain in the world. And by the way, this was all, in a sober moment.
Right.
But it was this beautiful feeling, and I walked for several hours that morning until the sun came up a little higher and it got hotter, and I kind of got back in my brain the groove of work.
Yep.
But I remember that feeling of that specific morning.
But isn't that neat, man? Because you've experienced something that there's some people who may not ever get to experience that moment or those few hours that you had of just peaceful or serenity.
Right.
And it's just you and nature and that what I'm going to call is like a calming, just a spiritual moment.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
I haven't had that moment yet. Maybe I'll find it sometime.
Sure. I'm
looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Just to see what that feels like.
Mm-hmm.
You're out there. I'm in my mind. I'm listening to your story, and I'm like, man, that's fantastic. But there is a bit of fear that I in myself.
Right.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to be going down 2,100 plus miles, going across 14 states, staying in places that I don't know, presumably hiking alone.
Right. You are alone.
You're alone, and I'm going to be coming across these hiking hostels. I've seen Deliverance. Makes me a little nervous.
Me too. Watched it as a teenager.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Probably not the best movie to watch before you take a journey.
Definitely not. I would not advise.
Right. So I'm thinking number one, my feet are going to get jacked up. I'm going to get gangrene in my feet. They're going to rot off. I'm definitely going to die. Someone's going to come across and do me some sort of harm. I'm going to starve to I'm going down the rabbit hole.
Oh, yeah.
So how did you prepare? That is what I'm thinking, right? But to hear you have this peacefulness, it's almost like you got to struggle and go through this grind to get there, and you see this.
Right.
You get to the other side of it, maybe.
You're absolutely right. You go over a lot of hurdles before you get to that moment.
Right.
And of course, it'll hit everybody at a different moment on the trail, or it may not hit anyone. It may not hit you at all, depending on who you are and what you may be looking for or expecting on the trail. And of course, that moment, it taught me, there's a third fold to it. It woke me up to the fact that there were going to be dozens of other moments on the trail where I would have those beautiful times. But like you said, let me go back and talk on what it takes to get there. April the 7th, I'll never forget. It was the coldest day I can remember. We had a cold snap in the 1st of April of 2007. It's 14 degrees. It's just one of those times in your life that you remember.
So you start at 14 degrees.
14 degrees was the temperature that night. My first very painful night in my sleeping bag in the middle of the Georgia woods, dropped off. Cold snap. And I'll never forget, I was in Statesville in March, and we had an early spring, and a good friend of mine, Russell Thomas, he and I were waiting tables at a restaurant across the street, and it was spring, and we were like, this is beautiful. Of course, drinking more beer, packing on more pounds. And I thought, I'm ready. Spring is here. I'm ready to get to the AT. It's my time.
That's it, baby.
But my dad drops me off in Georgia, and I'll never forget getting out of his car, donning my pack, which felt uncomfortable. And I'm thinking, okay, here I am. I've made it. It's freezing cold, frigid. And he says, all right, love you, son. Bye. He speeds off on this Forest Service road in the middle of nowhere on the top of a mountain in Georgia. Honks the horn, bye. And you realize right there's another point of realization. You think, I've just been dropped off in the middle of the woods, 6 hours from home, with nothing to survive with except what's in this backpack on my back.
So that was your first oh shit moment.
Right. But that oh shit moment turns into time to get to work.
Time to get to work.
Time to get to work.
Right.
And not only that, but this is what you want. You are here. And it did. It carried it. Every single white blaze, the white markings on the trees that are the famous symbols of the Appalachian Trail, a white rectangle painted on every tree every 200 yards or so that marks the AT. Every one I'd pass, I'd just get giddy with excitement, like, yes, I'm here. I've made it. And you power through. You just have to keep that passion pushing you forward because you have more days that hurt than days that are painless and romanticized on the AT, and you've just got to remember why you're really there, which again circles back to when you decide to hike the AT. It's not something you just say, "Hey, I'm going to go do this. Yeah, that sounds cool. I can do that." It's something to be taken in with reverence and respect and humility. It's a humbling thing. That's that. But that was the first moment, and then that first night was just frigid cold. Hardly slept a wink. And then on day 3, as I'm approaching what's called Blood Mountain, Georgia, which got its name, Blood Mountain, Georgia, right?
It's a hell of a name.
On top of it, there was a famous Native American battle between the Cherokee and the Creek tribes. And apparently the top of this mountain, which is beautiful, it's a big solid boulder up there. Just get on top of. That's as big as half this flea market. Was apparently covered in blood during this famous battle, which I don't want to misquote it. Probably happened in the 17th or 18th century. And the name stuck. But that day that I hiked to Blood Mountain on day 3 in Georgia, I decided, well, you know what? I'm going to try to hike a big mile day.
Okay.
My first 2 days on the AT, I hiked 7 miles. 7 miles the first day, 7 miles the second day. Because again, I was not in good shape.
Right.
And day 3, these other guys who were fresh to the trail were like, "Oh, we're going to hike 14-mile days. We're going to do this." And I thought, well, why not? I'll give it a try. So day 3, I decided to hike from the place where I started, shelter I can't recall the name of right now, but I've got it written down. And to Blood Mountain, I was like, okay, it's 14 miles. Well, after about 10 or 11 miles that day, I remember stopping in the woods, sitting down on my bottom thinking, "Stewart, what have you gotten yourself into?"
I was wondering when we were going to get to this. Because there
is
has
day
to
3.
be that moment, right?
And mind you, it has not even rained on me yet.
Oh, boy.
Which is another factor that you have to face is weather. So day 3, I'm sitting in the middle of the woods, and I sat down, and I thought, well, let me eat a snack. Get a Snickers bar out of here, which was the go-to energy food. Ate it, and then at this time, about a 65-year-old man just comes walking by, just the most jovial person. He says, "Hey, buddy. Hey, how you doing?"
Hey, buddy.
I'm like, "I'm doing great, sir." And be whatever it is, a sign from God or just a passing hiker. But he's, "Hey, I'm such and such. I've hiked the AT. I know what you're going through. I've also hiked the Pacific Crest Trail," which I didn't know what was at the time.
I heard of that.
You know, and I can get into that as well. But he's showing me his shoes. He said, "Oh, I've just got these great shoes here." And I think he could tell that I was in pain and in some distress, and he was just making small talk.
He's helping you along, though.
So anyway, he said, "You know what? Just take it slow. Keep it up. I think you'll be okay." And I see the 65-year-old man just blow the doors off of me. You know, at 23, I'm like, mountain's killing me.
Right.
Needless to say, I made it to Blood Mountain that night, but I'll never forget, there's a half-mile climb at the very end that's straight up to the peak of Blood Mountain where there's a campsite where I slept that night. And I stopped and I thought, man, I haven't written anything in my journal yet. I need to do that. Almost like, oh, I think I'm going to die.
Right,
you know,
yeah.
I need to document something.
I need to tell somebody bye.
And looking back on it now, it's really an amazing thing because I was so disoriented and exhausted that my writing is barely legible in this journal I kept. And it just says, like, tired. Think I can make it. Let's pray that I do. And I did. And that third night of sleep on the AT was the hardest night I think I've slept in my life. Yeah.
After hiking 14 miles, which you felt was the most difficult thing physically and probably mentally that you'd done at the time, you got to enjoy a nice sleep in a tent on the ground.
Man, yeah. Sure did, yeah.
See, I was thinking after that, I'm definitely going to need the courtyard.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, actually, I had a little bit of an upgrade. I slept in what's called an Appalachian Trail shelter.
What's that?
Okay. On average, about every 15 miles, volunteer crews, which the AT is completely maintained by volunteers, which is an amazing thing. All volunteer maintained. Protected
fantastic.
by the National Park Service.
Sure.
But volunteer maintained. They have built, since the 1930s, the beginning of the opening of the AT, these 3-sided shelters every 15 miles you can camp in. So you stop at them and you're like, hey, There's this beautiful 3-sided lean-to.
Yeah.
Just a easy, primitive shelter. Wooden floor sleeping pad in it that you can sleep in if you don't want to pitch your tent.
Okay.
And there's one on top
from
of
the rain.
Yep, it's just 3-sided. Roof, 3 walls, open one side.
Right.
So you can just get in and out of. There's one on top of Blood Mountain, which was an old ranger station. So it actually had 4 walls, but the windows and doors were all, blown out, busted out of it. But still, wood platform. They tend to be mice and snake infested.
Oh,
but
dude.
When you're that tired and you don't feel like pitching your tent, that it may as well be the Courtyard Marriott, because I did. I put my sleeping bag and my pad down on that wooden platform when I slept 14 hours straight, didn't move. Straight on my back, just out. Next day I felt great.
Oh, I bet so.
And that was a hurdle. That was a big one of many in the first I'll say month of the trail, which is really the trial period. If you can make it through a month of the AT,
yep, you've made it.
There's very little that can stop you.
So, another thing I'm thinking about is shoes, preparation, food, but your backpack.
Yeah.
How much does that sucker weigh?
That's the other big thing. Mine tended to weigh, fully loaded, about 30 pounds.
Okay.
Which for many
still,
hikers
that's
out
heavy.
there, there's 2 camps of hikers. There's those that take the traditional route, which was more the camp that I was fitting into. 30 pounds was heavy.
Yeah.
And then there's these ultralight hiker guys nowadays that are, getting so extreme with their gear that they'll take their toothbrush and cut the handle off to just save each little ounce.
Oh, come on.
And they're out there. Yeah.
But what?
But 30 pounds was doing pretty good, teetotalers.
Damn eat-ups.
Which, speaking of teetotalers, I can play a song on the fiddle here in a little bit. Remind me of teetotalers. Called The Teetotalers Reel.
Is it real? Is this a real song?
Yeah, it's real.
Is this an original from you?
No. This is a traditional, I think it's more of an Irish song that's been adopted in the Americas as a bluegrass and old-timey song.
Really?
It's called The Temperance Reel, or The Teetotalers Reel.
Hell.
Temperance, was a period in American history where you weren't allowed to drink. Prohibition.
Right.
But yeah, you want to take a little break here?
No, just
yeah, that's what I mean. I'll
back
take a
that
little
bad boy
take a little
out,
break.
yeah.
So I'll
because I've never heard this before.
I'll fiddle away on the Temperance Reel.
I think it'd be fair to say there's probably not a lot of listeners who've heard this song.
Probably not.
I'm looking forward to it.
Right, cool.
Now, Julius, have you ever thought about hiking the Appalachian Trail or doing anything like that extreme?
Absolutely not. I actually hiked Mount Whitney, California.
Now I've done that as well. We'll have to talk about it. Yeah.
I have
We
walked.
have something in common.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
That was
Which
it's
Mount
for
Whitney
me.
is the absolute highest peak
in the continental
in the lower
United
48
States.
states in the
Yeah,
continental
United
U.S.
States. Not Alaska.
14,455
Something like that,
feet
yeah.
above.
We used to go up.
Wicked.
We would drive up Portal.
Yep, Whitney
And,
Portal in Lone
I
Pine,
lived in the
California.
Mojave Desert. We drive up to the Portal. There was.
Oh yeah.
We'd go play in the snow in our
Oh,
shorts.
yeah.
Get back in
Absolutely.
the car and drive back down to the desert.
I'm in.
All right, let's play the Teetotalers Reel
Let's do it.
real quick here. I don't have the band with me or my beautiful wife, so you'll have to bear with the solo aspect of the fiddle here. you go.
Wow, dude, that was awesome.
There you go. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
That was beautiful.
The temperance reel or the teetotalers reel?
I'm gonna tell you, anytime you hear a fiddle, I don't know what it is, but it just makes me. Same thing with the banjo, though. It makes me smile. Like it's almost like a permagrin. I don't know why. But wow, that was.
Thanks for entertaining me, guys.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, cool.
You should do that more often. Like if I could do that, man, I would just walk around the house and just break out. Do you remember what was it? I would run around the house like remember Patrick Swayze in Next to Kin when he would run around and he was chasing her and he says,
"That's one I never saw was Next of Kin."
What?
Yeah,
he believes in the hereafter. And you know what I'm hereafter.
I'd probably just play the Devil Went Down to Georgia over.
Devil Went Down to Georgia. Of course, it's like if you got a fiddle, that's one that people are like, Devil Went Down to Georgia. And of course, if I bring the banjo in, they're like, dueling banjos, man.
How do you not?
You got to know those.
So did you take you wouldn't have taken an instrument with you to play?
No, but that's a really good point. In 2007, I'd just gotten into playing banjo.
Yeah.
Fiddle was not even in my wheelhouse at that point. I didn't even have a thought of even learning how to play that thing yet. But quite frankly, the fiddle would be a pretty awesome trail companion because it's so portable. You know, it's a small instrument and it's lightweight. There were people out there carrying backpacker guitars, a couple of mandolins, and there is a guy, now that I think of it, oh my goodness, from Statesville. His dad, I don't know if he's still practicing, but he's an attorney in Statesville, worked with Alan Isley there on the corner, College Square at Mitchell Community College. Yep. Green, last name Green. Oh my goodness. Here's the small world aspect of it, though. His son, his trail name I can remember was Uncle Silly, played clawhammer banjo like I play, and he had his banjo with him. I was like, oh my gosh! And of course, I met him, and we both found out that we were from Statesville, and I was like, no way.
That's like
I don't know where Uncle Silly is these days, but I'd have to look into it.
You should definitely,
or at least reach out to his dad and say, hey, how's your son doing? I met him on the AT.
So is he your age?
No, he's older than we are.
I would say
he's probably
uncle.
Honestly, he seemed older at the time. He's probably in his mid-40s.
Well, yeah, so
maybe close to 50, actually. I could be way wrong.
So what was your trail name?
My trail name was Tuna Bag. Exactly.
How did you acquire the name Tuna Bag?
Trail names are this gem of Appalachian Trail culture.
I've got to take notes on
Tuna Bag. And I love to tell this story because
I'm glad, because I'm loving to hear it. Tuna Bag.
Excuse me. So, and everybody, what's so cool about the AT is that you meet total strangers from all over the nation. And a lot of them, you never even know what their real name is, but you know their trail name. And you don't forget, like, example, Uncle Silly from our hometown. Last name Green. But, so my trail name, Tuna Bag, I started the AT without a trail name. And everybody who hikes the AT is like, well, I've got to get a trail name.
Yeah.
Again, like most things in this life, you shouldn't force it. Let it come to you, right? Seek it, but don't obsess over it. So, I'm in Georgia. Day 5 on the Appalachian Trail is my first day of rain.
Ooh.
And that's another oh shucks moment. What am I going to do? I'm laying in my tent one morning. And just 2 days after my Blood Mountain, like, oh my God moment. And I wake up, and of course, I knew I couldn't avoid this moment, but I hadn't been checking the weather because this is before smartphones. My tent, it's gray. You can tell that gray hue is outside, and it's just, you look under your vestibule, moist, and like, darn. All right.
I'm sorry. Did you say, what? You look under your what?
My vestibule. I thought you were going to go for the word moist, because that's one of the worst words in the world.
most people hate the word moist.
Excuse me.
And a friend of mine, yeah. So
the rain fly, it's a little,
okay.
It's a little like porch, if you will, that you've got outside your tent.
Gotcha.
And so I look out there and I'm like, man, okay, it's cold too, mind you. You know, it's early spring in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Georgia. So I get out, I'm like, okay, I've got to get this right. I've got to really think about how I'm going to pack my tent up, which is soaking wet on the outside, in my backpack, and not ruin everything on the inside of my pack, clothing and backup gear that I might need, not soak it.
Right.
It's a delicate process, and it's mindful too. So I get it all packed up, and I start hiking that day. It's just, the rain doesn't let up. It's not heavy, but it's just enough to really get you soaked and cold and annoyed. And 7 miles into the trail that day, 7 miles into my hike that day, I thought, there's a shelter over there, at Blue Mountain Shelter. I'm going over there. I'm getting out of this darn rain. So I do, and of course, on rainy days, in crowded sections of the trail, those shelters, which typically sleep about 10 people, packed. So I get there, and it's bursting at the seams. You know, there's like 20 people in this 10-man shelter, and I'm like,
Not
what
good.
do I do? Because I really don't want to hike anymore in this rain. My hands are frozen. I'm cold. So I waited it out. I waited. Somebody left, decided they were going to hike down to the next road and just hitchhike the heck out of there. And I said, that's my spot. So I crammed in this tight little spot, you know, with a bunch of total strangers. Like, I'm done. Done for the day. This is my resting spot. So dinner time comes around, and I pull out of my backpack a can of chicken.
Mm-hmm.
One of those pull-off cans, right? So what do you think I'm thinking when I'm surrounded by total strangers and I'm pulling this?
Don't spray them with the water inside the can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do not spill this garbage all over your sleeping bag or somebody else's, because you don't know these people. So I do, and at that last little moment, you know,
Yep.
I pulled it. Oh, not all of it, but enough of it spilled on my sleeping bag, and of course everybody's watching me while I'm doing this. Like, is he gonna spill it? Is he gonna spill it?
Right.
Spills on my sleeping bag. It was chicken. They thought, oh man, you spilled tuna on your sleeping bag. Tuna on your sleeping bag, man.
And I know that.
You got a trail name? I was like, no, but I think I just earned one. Like, you should be Tuna Bag. You know, of course it didn't sound completely like that, but I'm like, yeah, Tuna Bag.
I think Tuna Bag.
I'm like, you know, that's a cool trail name. I'll take it. So I became Tuna Bag, spilling chicken, as it actually was, on my sleeping bag. So, hence and forevermore from there, I was Tuna Bag.
I feel like you should definitely have like your own sticker or mug or T-shirt that says Tuna Bag.
Right, you know.
Like, you should monetize this.
Be more like Tuna Bag.
Right.
I
That
mean,
was a
like,
nice spin on it, because maybe
you know,
like,
let me
hey,
put it
don't be
this
such
way.
a tuna bag, eh?
Yeah, you know.
Hey, forget about
Or
it.
it's more like this, you know, you've seen Salt Life bumper stickers.
Yes.
Well, I mean, what about Tuna Bag?
What?
you know.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Because what does Salt Life really mean?
Sounds like grittiness to me in my
Exactly.
crack.
Yeah.
It just chafes me.
Discomfort. That's what it sounds
Dis-
like.
Well, they actually
Discomfort,
have
that
tuna
sounds
bags, right?
Yeah, they do.
Bags
The
that you get
Star-Kissed tuna in the
Tuna
bag.
bag.
I mean, that could be
That's
another.
what I thought it was leading up
That
to.
could be an
I didn't
endorsement
think
for me.
sleeping
You
bag,
know,
but, yeah.
there could be some money involved in it.
Yes, you could be the chicken of the sea.
So, you know, and there were, of course, other trail name stories there, because I would ask people what their stories were. One guy who was super memorable, who again I've written already about in the book. His name was Sanford. Sanford. Well, I was like, oh, Sanford. What's your
Sanford
deal?
and Sons, like,
Exactly.
ah.
So this man Sanford, he lives in Washington D.C. Last time I checked, he's a good guy, super dude. He had hiked the AT the year before, but he and his buddy Park Bench, exactly, decided to come back and hike a leg of the trail.
Okay.
Just for old time's sake. They didn't have jobs at the time. They're like, oh, well, why not? You know,
What else?
the world's our oyster. So Sanford actually got a presidential award for picking up trash in the woods and keeping things. So Sanford would pick up trash along the way, put it in his backpack, dump it in a town. Hence, he collected garbage. Sanford and Son. Sanford's his trail name. Beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing.
And then Park Bench, he was a super guy too. I guess his story isn't quite as interesting, but it's perfectly fitting for his personality. He had a group of friends who thought, you know what, Park Bench, you're the kind of guy who just things don't really bother you. Just in your Zen mode on the Appalachian Trail. He said you are more likely to be just as happy sleeping in a mansion. Actually, correction, you'd be happier sleeping on a park bench than you would be sleeping in $1 million house. So
Park
there he
bench.
goes, Park Bench. I met him on the AT again in New Hampshire, which was out of the blue. I was like, whoa, where'd you come from? He said, hey, Tuna Bag, how you doing? I hiked with him for a while. And I said, Park Bench, how you doing? How's life treating you? He's like, Tuna Bag, I'm happier than a pig in shit. Just being in the woods.
Just being here.
Hence, Park Bench. Beautiful name for him. Yeah.
During your experience, what was the biggest, like, oh crap moment? Or where
Yeah.
you were like, you know what, I might be in some real trouble here.
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
Absolutely. Gosh, several. Where to pick? Well, in Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania is notorious for its rattlesnakes and its rocks.
Uh,
Timber rattlesnakes, which we've got them up here in the mountains. Actually, I've got a friend named Adrian Bussell who lives up next to Prospect Mountain off of 115.
Mm-hmm.
There's rattlesnakes up there, which is weird because they're not in all over Idaho County. But anyway,
not going there.
I was hiking a Big Mile Day in Pennsylvania, about 22 miles into the town of Reading, Pennsylvania. I think it's Reading, which is right outside the town where Yuengling was created.
Okay.
Right. Neat little history there in Pennsylvania. 22-mile day, middle of summer. By the time you hit Pennsylvania, hot, and I'm about 2 miles from town, and I'm out of water. God, I'm dying here. About 8 feet in front of me, I get stopped dead in my tracks. Bam. Coiled up, big rattlesnake, 8 feet in front of me. Right. It's the scariest sound in the world, and he's just, thank God he warned me, right?
Oh.
And he's in the middle of the trail, and it's surrounded on all sides with thick bushes and brush that's about 2 feet high, and I think, how am I going to get around this sucker?
Yeah.
In the trail guide books, they say, just wait him out. So I'll wait, but I'm like, I'm burning up, and I'm literally dehydrated. So I backed up, collected a handful of baseball-sized rocks, and just start pelting them at him. Made him mad enough to where he left.
He left.
He took off, and I booked it. I mean, I sprinted. And that was minor league, because in the Great Smoky Mountains, backtracking, I had a day where it started raining on me on top of the actual Rocky Top, Tennessee. And it was about 43 degrees outside. And it rained on me the entire day. And again, crowded shelters tend to congregate big time when it's cold. I thought, man, where am I going to stop?
Yeah. And
if I stopped for longer than 2 or 3 minutes, I was about to suffer from hypothermia. I was soaking wet, freezing cold. What do? So eventually things worked out for me. But that was one of those moments where I thought, man, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I got to find some shelter pretty quick.
So if you would have gotten into like trouble, let's say you would have, started to slip into hypothermia.
Right.
Like you said, I mean, there's no smartphones around, man. No. So how the hell do you get help? Like, what do you do? Do you shoot the flare? I mean, is there a whistle?
Is
there a trail whistle?
No.
I mean, what do you do?
The great thing about the AT is that, I mean, think about the East Coast, right? We're in the most populated vein of the country. Mm-hmm. That you really don't go one day without seeing another soul pass you. So, yeah, you'd sit and suffer for a while, and you definitely could be in serious harm, but you're going to be discovered by somebody.
Right. You may lose a foot or some toes to frostbite.
Exactly.
But someone's going to come along.
But you'll probably survive.
Right.
Exactly.
It'll be a hell of a story.
Like if I had been snake bit in Pennsylvania, I mean, somebody would have probably found me before lights out would have happened.
You'll earn a hell of a trail name.
Yep.
With losing some limbs.
For sure.
And some digits.
Exactly.
No. Were there any close encounters or... where you realized you didn't either pack enough of something or you ran out of supplies or you were just like, what am I? And the reason I'm asking these things is because I have a guy coming in, my next guest is what they call a bushman.
Okay.
So we're going to learn and talk about like living in nature of what you have to kind of survive in a way.
Right.
So it'd be interesting to like interview him or chatting with you about going into the wilderness for like, hey, I'm gonna be out there for 6 months, walking this tiny little trail. You may have heard of it, and like, what do I do to survive?
And the interesting thing is, like on the AT, like honestly, you don't have the time or the energy to consume yourself with saying, "Oh, I'm gonna live off the land."
Yeah,
because you've got a destination.
Right.
Your job is to walk, and quite frankly, your MO is not to be out there to survive, but it's to the Appalachian Trail. So for me, it was Lance crackers, summer sausage, a block of cheese, bagels, ramen noodles. That was my fare. And I didn't run out of food.
Did you have to start a fire and make a fire while you were there to stay warm?
The thing is, I never had to out of necessity.
Really?
Never did, yep.
Well, I feel like you got to go back out there and do it.
But now, I'll fast forward to 2009. The cool thing, and I'm writing about this again in my book. I won't blab about that too much.
No, blab.
So 2000. What's cool about what I did is the Appalachian Trail was was a beacon, so to speak.
Okay.
It shined the way on other adventures that opened up for me. So 2007's over. I finished the Appalachian Trail. Well, in 2008, my first year after teaching, single guy, I don't own a house yet. I'm like, well, what do I do? Well, my friend from college calls me, who actually hiked the Appalachian Trail the year before I did. Kind of planted the seed really deeply in my mind. He says, hey, how about we go to California for 3 weeks and hike the John Muir Trail? I'm like, John Muir's cool. I've heard of it. What it is, it's a 220-ish mile trail that goes from Yosemite Valley, starts in Yosemite, and then it hikes south in the Sierra Nevada of California to Mount Whitney. You finish on top of Mount Whitney, the highest peak in the lower 48. And it took us about 2 weeks, and we did that in 2008. We're like, God, this is awesome. And out there, we didn't hit any rain or really any bad situations, but you're really in the wilderness out there. You really see the population and geography shift of being in the West. When you're in the woods in the West, you are in the woods. And if something does happen, you probably are SOL. Nobody's going to find you for a couple of days or a week. But we did that. And then I'll fast forward again. In 2009, I made a good friend who still teaches at North, and he said, hey, I'd like to get into some backpacking too. Well, I said, all right. There's this trail in Colorado called Colorado Trail, which is 500 miles long, and it goes from Denver into the Rockies, goes straight down through the Rockies, and it finishes in Durango, Colorado, which is in the southwestern corner of the state. And that took about 33 days, and that trail was beautiful, and it was intense. And there were a couple situations on that trail where pretty hairy. I didn't think we were going to make it out of some sticky situations.
Like, what's a sticky or hairy situation on a trail?
So here you go. So in Colorado, middle of July, it's common for you to go to sleep and wake up, again, middle of July, you're camping at about 10,000 feet.
Okay.
With frost on the inside of your tent. You get freezes in certain parts of Colorado all year long. And it rains in Colorado like clockwork. Like about noon, you're going to get soaked in the summer, like monsoon season. But then it kind of clears up and you dry out. But we got caught in a hailstorm at about 11,000 feet that just came in fast. Hail comes in that covers the ground like it's a snowstorm here. And we're like, okay, we're at 11,000 feet, right at tree line. What do? Do we keep pushing above this ridge and keep rocking and rolling, or do we back down and take some cover? Well, then the lightning starts, right?
Oh, no.
And there was one point where we got a little too far up, and it was flash, bam. I mean, I'm talking within probably half a mile of us. My friend, Michael, claimed that he could feel the hairs on his arms sticking up right before the lightning hit. And it was close. It scared the living hell out of us. So we backed down. It's cold. It's hailing. We're getting wet. I made a fire for as long as we could to warm up. And then we put up the rain fly of one tent, sat in it, huddled up underneath of it to get the warmth going because the temperatures dropped through the... waited it out about 3 or 4 hours. Storm rolls through. We're done. We're good. We were safe. We kept hiking for a couple hours. But that was a situation where if you didn't make the right decision, you're done.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's some intense stuff, dude.
Yeah, and that was outside of what's called Black Canyon of the Gunnison, Colorado, which is one of the most remote places in that entire state.
Not the place where you want this to happen.
Not a place where you want this to happen. The Colorado Trail, look that one up.
So did you take a fire start or you had lighter?
I just had a lighter.
Gotcha.
You got to do it easy. No time for the for the Survivor Man stuff. You just got to be practical. You've got to be a machine of efficiency and practicality when you backpack.
Yeah, that's a good point. That you need to be, like you said, practical.
And it's another life lesson that it teaches you too. It's like, and I still carry these things with me today. I think, what do I really need in life?
Yep.
To be happy? Well, the answer is not much. If you can live for months on end with everything that you love and need in a backpack, well, that answers your question for you. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Dude, I bet you can pack like nobody's business.
Oh, I used to could. Yeah, absolutely.
Minimalist.
Exactly. It leads to that whole popular movie.
My wife, we joke, like, God forbid anything would ever happen, but she's like, you're going to be old, and you're going to have one plate, one fork, one cup. And I'm like, yep.
That's it.
And it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not all this stuff, right?
Exactly.
Because I'm sure that's one of the things you learn too. Is just stuff, right? We accumulate so much.
Only so much stuff you need.
Non really necessary stuff.
Exactly. And then fast forward, I'll go real quick. In 2010, my friend I went to Colorado with, we decided to hike what's called the Long Trail. Probably never heard. In Vermont. And it is the predecessor to the AT. So there are these two guys who in the early 1900s, Benton Mackay and Myron Avery, who were in Vermont together. And this is in the 1920s. And they're like, wow, this is a beautiful trail, the Long Trail, which was created in 1910. And it's a trail. It's the granddaddy of all long-distance trails in America. It starts at the Massachusetts-Vermont border, goes all the way through the state of Vermont, and you finish on the Canadian border, 300 and some miles, give or take, through the Green Mountains of Vermont.
Sounds beautiful.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. So I thru hiked that one in 2010 with my friend Michael, again another summer before marriage, and but these two guys, back to them, Benton Mackay and Myron Avery, said, well, why don't we replicate this long trail throughout America? This is a little bit of the history of the AT. And they thought, well, let's create this trail that goes from the two highest peaks in the east, Mount Mitchell and Mount Washington in New Hampshire. That was the original plan of the AT. Well, things change, and it ended up the way it is. It's longer now than that. It doesn't cross Mount Mitchell, and it does cross Mount Washington in New Hampshire, but it keeps going about another 400 miles to Katahdin in Maine. So that happened. But the Long Trail is a beautiful experience too. It's like an even older relative of the AT, and when you hike it, you can just feel that romanticized American backpacking poster child.
So was the Appalachian Trail the most fulfilling that you completed? Or?
You know, I think so, because it's hard to compete with that. You know, everything else was just like a little bit more whipped cream on top of the latte, if you will. And then the Long Trail was just beautiful. And then 2011 hit, and of course I didn't know it at the time, but that was going to be my last summer of as a person with not being married and not having kids. And I used to love to bicycle. Had a road bike, ride 100 miles a week almost at my best. Now I'm lucky to ride up the street without getting winded. But I decided, man, I love the Blue Ridge Parkway. I'm going to ride the entire Blue Ridge Parkway. So in 2011, bought a little trailer for the back of my Trek 1000 road bike, and in 9 days went from Cherokee all the way up to Shenandoah National Park in Northern Virginia on the Blue Ridge Parkway, which is about 500 miles long. Took me 9 days.
Whoa.
Beautiful. Awesome ride.
On your bike, and you pulled a little trailer with your stuff.
Hard as hell.
I'm about to say, it sounds awful,
a different
to be
beast,
honest.
because I used to think, in 2011, my mindset was like, oh, I can hike these trails. I'm in great shape.
It's different.
Yeah, Blue Ridge Parkway, no problem. Man, granny low gear, 4 miles an hour, gasping your breath out.
I mean, that's
for 10, 12 miles straight up. It was wild.
It's a different body posture.
But I finished it. And again, some of the same mental and physical challenges you have to get over and endure, because it rained probably 5 out of the 9 days I was out there. But that was it. So from 07 to 11, I did something pretty cool.
Right.
Every summer. And then 2012, of course, was the icing on the cake.
That's right.
Marriage, and then getting ready for a baby and putting a nursery together. So it was a beautiful thing.
Good for you, man.
So there we go. So the Appalachian Trail is just the beacon. And it still dictates a lot of who I am. And I often say that too. I think that my education, quote unquote, that I received in the woods, very much in the vein of Henry David Thoreau, was more valuable than even 4 years were previously at Appalachian State. And
well, that's
even after
sure.
the graduate
Education's fantastic, but you got to get out there and live.
Oh,
right?
you can
Life
get it in
lessons
so many
teaching,
different ways. Those life lessons are so important,
and they're invaluable.
Yep.
But you have to learn from them. Right?
Exactly.
Can't make the same mistake twice.
That's right.
That's where you end up.
That's right. Or you shouldn't.
You shouldn't.
That's right. Yeah.
I may have once or twice done that. So is there another big adventure or something you're looking forward to? Maybe you're planning for? Maybe you and Carl have talked about? Maybe doing it together?
Yeah, the next big adventure is really to get the kids out there.
Mm-hmm.
I want to take Carla and the kids to these places that I've seen and others that I haven't, like Yosemite National Park. Oh, my God. One of the most beautiful places on earth. Or Grand Tetons National Park. I got to see that after I finished the Colorado Trail. I rented a car with my buddy. We finished early, drove up to Wyoming, because I'd never seen Yellowstone. I was like, well, let's make a road trip out of it too. We're out here. But, man, the Grand Tetons in Jackson Hole, Wyoming are just, they'll take your breath away. I just want to share that with my kids. So it'd be great to just take a road trip when the kids get a little bit older. That's the next big thing that I'm really looking forward to.
It's so funny, man, that is your, like, what you want to do. That is your vision.
Yeah.
I just went and bought a sleeping bag from Kmart when they were marked down. Because I'm going to have to try to, like, put up a tent myself in the backyard before they realize Daddy doesn't know what he's doing.
Right, yeah. Yeah, you got to practice before you get out there.
They can't know that, I really don't know how to do anything, right? But I have to sell it.
Right, just like me, my kids think I can fix everything.
Well, I can't. No, I can't hang anything in the house. Kristen has to. She. Yes, honey. She takes care of that stuff. I'm not sure what I take care of, but I feel like it's important.
Yeah.
Is there anything? Is there any? Before we wrap up here, is there any song or anything that you're working on or something you enjoy playing on the fiddle?
You know what?
You can take us out to?
Well, I've got this kind of neat thing. Carla is so cool. She calls it my old man bluegrass group.
Yeah. On
Tuesday nights, which obviously not this Tuesday, I get together with some good friends who are they're all over the age of 65. Most of them friends with my dad, but we get together on Tuesday nights and we play bluegrass music and just jam. Just old-timey style, but otherwise, Carla and I we connect and make music, and it's just it's a beautiful thing. But currently, I'm not working on any musical projects, but just kind of keeping my little obsession going with the banjo and the fiddle. But yeah, I'll play you one.
Yeah, man,
I'll play an old Appalachian Mountain tune called the Squirrel Hunters.
I love it.
Good old Appalachian fiddle tune, and I'll take y'all out on that. It's in the spirit of everything we're talking about here.
Beautiful. And thank you to States Vegas Clothing Company, Hunk of Junk Calling, and States Vegas Radio, and Julius for having us, as always.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you.
Man, I enjoyed it. Love it. All right. There you go.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, man. Thanks for coming in.
Enjoyed it.
Everyone, thanks for listening, and we will see you again soon. That was amazing.
Cool. Glad you liked it.
Enjoyed it, brother.
Thank y'all. Yeah, that was fun.
Woo.